What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBNTG, and it's Thanksgiving. What am I thankful for this year? Weird decks, as usual, right? It's, you get sick of your Jeskis and your Abzans all the time, So we gotta have something super weird, and you're not gonna see this anywhere else. This is Temur Wanderer Thief. That's a lot of weird words strung together. The first card I probably need to tell you about here is part of the namesake of the deck. This is Woodland Wanderer. A lot of people really like this card, and after doing some things with it, I can totally see why. Woodland Wanderer is ridiculous. On the third turn in this deck, and it is somewhat rare, but there's multiple ways of doing it. On the third turn, we can get a 6/6 Woodland Wanderer with the help of Rattleclaw Mystic and a couple of other lands. So, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it's ridiculous. And we can reliably get a 5/5 or even the 6/6 on turn 4, pretty easily with this thing. That's just absolutely crazy. Really outclasses a lot of the other, 3 and 4 drops in the format, and offends a Siege Rhino, Manus Router, all that. If we can play a 5/5 or a 6/6 Woodland Wanderer, if they play a Siege Rhino on their 3rd or 4th turn, that's totally fine, because we're going to end up playing, a 5/5 that totally outclasses it, with Vigilance too, and Trample for that matter. So Woodland Wanderer actually is really good at this mana cost. What about the other half of the title here? We're playing 14 cards capable of stealing creatures. That's a lot of quote-unquote removal in this deck, because ideally we're going to be sacrificing the creatures when we steal them, at least after an attack step most of the time. So what are we playing? We're playing 4 copies of Exert Influence to start it off. This is the best thief in the entire format, We can steal pretty much every relevant creature, south of Ulamog in the format. Jutai has hexproof unless it's tapped. We can steal if it's tapped. And then, I guess Silumgar, we can't steal that no matter what. So there's that too. But we can steal pretty much every relevant piece in the format, which there are an awful lot of. And Exert Influence isn't even hard to get the full 5 on, by the time you can play it, which is sometimes on the 4th turn with the help of a Rattleclaw Mystic. A lot of these thief cards being overpriced is helped a lot by a Rattleclaw Mystic. Playing them a turn early is really good, just to say that. But Exert Influence, we get to keep the creature forever, which is not true with any of the other thieves that we're playing. So that's very important, and it's very splashable, only 1 blue mana. Just so much about this card is good. We're playing some similar cards, so I'll go ahead and give them to you all at the same time. We're playing 4 Act of Treason, 3 Lose Calm, and 1 Turn Against here. The Turn Against is important because it's instant speed. I really don't like that it's another 5 mana steal a guy thing, but instant speed is really good and can be a huge blowout if you're able to do it, during their turn sometimes. So that's good, especially if you can sacrifice the guy too. So that's awesome, but it is really expensive to be able to do that trick, so we're only playing 1 copy. Act of Treason and Lose Calm. Lose Calm is especially good, by the way. I know it costs all that mana, but it doesn't matter. Just 4 mana is not that bad, honestly. And to give the creature menace is really good. When you can swing in and go unblocked with their biggest guy most of the time, and then immediately sacrifice it after combat, it's a great trick. And Act of Treason is Act of Treason. It's reliable, cheap, it does exactly what we want it to do. And to finish off the thieves here, 2 copies of Yasova Dragonclaw, which has been awesome too, by the way. It sucks that it can only steal stuff that's lower than its power. I wish it was like equal to or less than, but we can't steal Siege Rhino, we can't steal an Offenza, we can steal a lot of the other important and smaller creatures in the format, which is really relevant. And we're only playing 2, I don't want to go too overboard because of that stipulation and the legendary rule there. But by the time you're able to play, 5 and 6/6 Woodland Wanderers, you're able to outclass the creatures that you can't steal with this anyway, so it's not a big deal. What are our sack outlets here? We're obviously going to play 4 Evolutionary Leap. I think that's super important, right? And we're going to play 3 copies of Collateral Damage, but in this slot you could also play Bone Splinters or Altar's Reap. We can produce black mana in the deck, so why not use it, We can play, it's like 7 ways of producing black, I think, in the mana base, so we could play Bone Splinters, which would just be huge blowouts, steal a guy, swing with him, sacrifice and kill 2 of their dudes, basically, in the same turn. That's ridiculous. So that would be awesome. I could see Bone Splinters or even Altar's Reap because the deck wants to draw cards really bad. But I've included Collateral Damage here because we can go to the face with it, which is something we need a little bit more than it looks like we do. We could play Wild Slash in the main. I just don't see the room for it really. I could see maybe, it's in the board, by the way. You can take out against some decks some of your thieves and put in Wild Slash to go to the face, or to kill smaller dudes you don't care that much about stealing. So Wild Slash I could see being important. I just didn't see the room for it in the main, but Collateral Damage helps a little bit where Wild Slash, leaves off. We can't play Wild Slash, let's play damage. You can either hit him in the face or you can kill smaller dudes. We don't care about stealing. So Collateral Damage has been really good. And the important thing about, Leap, which I'll get to in a second, and Collateral Damage here, and for that matter, Bone Splinters if you wanted to play that, is they're all just 1 mana. We're paying a lot of mana for these steal a guy things, and we won't have much mana left over in the earlier turns, or even the mid-game sometimes. So we want to be able, these cards, to be very cheap that allow us to sacrifice creatures. It's just very important that it's as cheap as possible, you know. As far as Evolutionary Leap goes, this card is ridiculous. I'll get to the rest of the creatures that we're playing in the deck in just a second. I'm sure I'll talk a little bit more about Leap here. But Leap is great because of the value, man. If you steal one of their guys, just pay the mana to sack it to Leap. You know, then at that point, you're able to kill one of their dudes after attacking with it most of the time and get one of your guys. That's insane value. It's a blowout. Again, I keep using that term because there's in the mid game so much we can do. We're very, very resilient. Or you have 9 creatures that morph in the deck. There's 15 creatures in all. All these guys morph just sort of coincidentally. You know, there's 4 copies of Rattleclaw Mystic. Hey, Julie. Which which I've mentioned a couple of times in the deck. It's really, really important for helping us play not only Woodland Wanderer return early, for easy mana too, by the way. This thing produces 3 colors of mana. On the 4th turn, we can flip it up to pretty much guarantee a big Woodland Wanderer too, by the way. That's important. Just a lot of stuff that we can do with Rattleclaw Mystic. You know, we can player Thieves a turn early, play Woodland Wanderer a turn early. It's a very important card. Deathmist Raptor and Den Protector are our other 2. I'll talk about them at the same time. They're a team. You know, Deathmist, I only want the 1 copy of it. I just don't think it does enough in the deck. And we can leap into it really easily, so we only need to play the 1 copy. There's that too. A really good sequence, by the way, is to steal their guy, sacrifice it to Evolutionary Leap, and then leap into a Den Protector. At that point, you can morph it down, flip it up, and get the thing back from your graveyard you just used to steal a creature. So, like, that's a really, really good sequence, and just they lose all hope a lot of the time when that happens. Den Protector, though, can also get back, you know, Woodland Wanderer, and a lot of times, if you played a small Wanderer earlier in the game, later on you can get it back with your Den Protector, it'll be even bigger. You know, you play a 4/4/5/5 Woodland Wanderer, they spot remove. You get it back with Den Protector, it can be a 6/6 a little bit later on in the game. So Den Protector does so much for us in this deck. 26 lands in the deck, and this is a pretty tough land base to build because we want to be able to create all 5 colors, but of course focus on Temur colors in this build. If you want to put in the Bone Splinters, focus a little bit more on black. But again, we can make 7 ways of making black in the deck, so that's really, really good. Or at least, fetching up, including in that. So, but the land base was pretty tough to make. I wanted to play 4 Lumbering Falls, but that didn't work out in the end. We needed other sources of colored mana. Here's our sideboard. There's the other Deathmist Raptors, in case you were wondering. They are important against a lot of decks. Display of Dominance is an especially good card. I've already explained Wild Slash. And Radiant Flames is an insane card out of the sideboard that could make the main deck. You know, we are a little exposed in the very early game, so something like Radiant Flames could be really good in the main, but I've relegated it to the side because, aggro isn't the biggest thing in the format right now. But of course, that depends on your locals. I can totally see playing Radiant Flames in the main, is all I'm saying. And here are your power rankings. The final score of 65 here, which is a fine score for a competitive deck. We're very resilient as we go into the later turns. We're able to do so much more stuff. And that really helps because we'll be stealing their creatures, sacrificing their creatures, getting our own creatures. Woodland Wanderer gets ridiculous when you draw them late. There's just so many good plays that we have from the 4th turn going on. So we're quite resilient in the deck. We don't play all the powerful cards, Sure, Deathmist Raptor, Den Protector are powerful cards, but they don't do it all by themselves, The rest of the deck is fairly cheap to make, though. A final cost of about $275. Low prices on TCG players. So $275 is not bad. That is less than half the price of pretty much any deck with Jace in it and fetch lands. So, not to mention all the other stuff that's in standard nowadays. But, Hangerback Walker is ridiculous. Gideon. So this deck doesn't play any of those cards. That's fresh, right? And less than $300 is a fine price to pay, especially for a deck that nobody's going to know what the heck you're doing with. That's all I got for now. Let me know how you feel about this one in the comments section. I know it's really, really weird, but I've been trying to build Temur Wanderer for a while now, and this ended up being the thing that I hit on, I really like strange decks like this, and it actually is pretty darn good. At the end of the day, there's a lot going for it, and it's really, really fun, especially once it gets you get the ball rolling on it. The deck can be just a hoot to play. All the Ulamog-based decks that are going around, sure, he busts 2 permanents when he comes into play, but we can just steal him after that and sacrifice, fight fire with fire against those big decks. It's good against those too. So let me know how you feel about it, because I kind of like it. Well, what are we doing next time? Don't worry, Collateral Healer combo is still a thing. I'm working on it. And then Simic Stompy, Simic Beatdown, I'm still working on it too. But I do have a $10, I think it's about $10, yeah, mono green Stompy deck put together. And I've got the 10 or 15, I think it is, mono blue control deck put together. So which one of those do you want to see? And I've got a red mid-range control thing that's in the works right now that I think might be really, really good. I know that's not much information to go on, but I'm really working on it. Just I know a lot of people want red control, so I'm trying to make it work, and I've got some ideas. So yeah, let me know how you feel about all of the above, and I'll start doing things with that. I'm Deb from SBMTG. If you enjoyed the content, which I really hope you did, just hit the thumbs up button. That's super simple. Again, let us know how you feel about the upcoming decks and this ridiculous thing I've just shown you there. Remember the last 15 minutes? That was really fun. But in any case, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, my wizards.